Hello guys, and welcome back to TierSpec TV. In the previous video on my Defender, I finally announced that I have committed to getting this Defender back on the road and therefore needing to rebuild it because there's quite a few issues that we need to sort out before it can get through its inspection and then back on the road, namely rust, but we'll go more into that. And when I say committed, I mean that I have actually ordered a brand new galvanized chassis and bulkhead for this Defender, so they are on their way. I don't know exactly when they'll be here, but hopefully in the not too distant future. And just before we started filming this video, Nissa and I have just sat down together and gone through a list that I have been working on of parts for this Defender, and that's kind of the point of this video. So some of you may remember that I kind of did a version of this video previously, way back at the very end of 2022, where in this exact same barn, I walked around my Defender talking about things that I would change on it in the case of a rebuild. However, in that video, I was mostly talking about the modifications that are currently on this Defender and what I would change out of those and keep and remove and so on and so forth. Whereas today, I really want this to be like the concrete, finalized list of parts that I am going to be putting onto this Defender so that once this video is out, I can actually go and start ordering stuff to begin this Defender rebuild. But, and another purpose of it is to get feedback from all of you. So in the previous video, I was blown away by the response that I got from it, both in terms of views, but also engagement in comments and messages that we received, and suggestions for things I could do, and just general support for this project. So thank you very much for that. But it is genuinely a really helpful thing to have an audience out there that can advise you on what to do and what not to do. So for some things with this Defender, there are parts where I know 100% exactly the things that I want to go for, and I'm not in any doubt in my mind about what I'm going to order. Whereas there's other bits where I might be deciding between 2 or 3 options, and other areas where I have no idea where to get this particular part, which is where you guys come in and you can help me with some recommendations for that. So again, it's another reason for this video, so that once it's out and I have a bit of feedback as well, I can actually go and start ordering some parts. So I've got some notes here on my phone and the full list of parts that I'm going to go through. But before I dive into all of that, I want to talk about my philosophy for this Defender build. And what I mean by that is that I've been running this Defender for many years now for various things, daily driving duties, off-roading, as a workhorse, and we've done a lot of modifications to it, fixes, and servicing and things like that, which means I have a really good idea in my head of what works and what doesn't, and what I now want this Defender to be, having done a lot of trial and error, let's say, and knowing what I'm going to use it for in the future. So my philosophy for it really is that I actually want it to be quite simple. I don't want a Defender with a ton of gadgets. I don't want it to be complicated. I want something that is simple to use, simple to maintain, and ultimately is just a Defender. Now, in an ideal world, if money were no object, I would, of course, have multiple Defenders for different purposes. I would love to have a Spectre-style Defender on huge tires with ropes and big spotlights and whatever. I'd love to have Defenders with different engines and so on and so forth. But right now, I've got this one, so this is what I've got to work with. I've really taken inspiration from, in particular, 2 places in the Land Rover world. One of them I'm sure you've heard of, and that is Twisted, the Land Rover Defender rebuilders in the UK. The reason I mention them is because I really like the kind of look that they go for. So they tend to kind of, I think, modernize the Defender, almost give it a bit of a facelift, add creature comforts and things like that, but without losing the identity of the vehicle. And I really like, yeah, just the style that they go for. The other one is an account I found on Instagram or been following for a while called Brooklyn Coachworks. As the name suggests, they're based in New York. And their builds are basically just completely stock Defenders, or at least stock in terms of appearance. I'm sure there's lots of things under the skin, but it's kind of seeing their super aesthetically clean Land Rovers has really made me fall in love again with the look of just a Defender. So I don't want something that's overcomplicated with lots of flashy bits on it. I just want a Defender with a few creature comforts and modifications here and there, but generally quite subtle. So that's my mindset for this. Let's jump into the list. So I've broken this down into a few categories, and those are chassis, body, and interior, and then engine and drivetrain, all the sort of mechanical bits. So chassis is basically everything that is going to bolt to the chassis, the foundation of the vehicle that we then need to build up on. Now, obviously, the essential part of this is a chassis and bulkhead. That's the only part of this build I've so far ordered, as well as a chassis bolt kit that will be included in that. So the next thing we can talk about is suspension. Now, I've got two options for this at the moment. Originally, I was thinking of just going directly with an Old Man Emu kit. There's nothing particularly special about Old Man Emu, just that they, at least as far as I know, they get the job done, very durable. And I know Nis has been using some Old Man Emu parts on his V890, and they've been great, and they're very highly spoken of. So originally, I was just going to go straight with an Old Man Emu kit, because like I said, I know it'll get the job done. However, after the previous video, a couple of you did comment that I should consider the Fox kit and comfort spring set that Alive Tuning offer. This wasn't even something I knew existed before this video. I hadn't considered what Alive Tuning offered, so thank you for pointing that out. And I have heard very good things about that for improving how this Defender handles on the road. So after looking at that, I'm really strongly considering that Fox Shock kit plus comfort spring set. My only slight concern with it is if it's going to negatively impact off-road performance. I don't think it would, but just because it's coming from Alive Tuning, and it sounds like it might have a bit more of an on-road bias, and I still want to use this as Defender off-road. I don't think that'll be the case. I think it'll be fine. So I'm very much considering that, and I have a feeling that is what I will go for based on the very, very good things I've heard about that setup. And then actually a lot of the suspension stuff, if not all the suspension stuff, could just come through Alive Tuning. So another theme you'll see with this is that I want to try and keep things, basically order things in bulk in a few big orders rather than ordering lots of little parts from many different places. And that's also partly because we're based in Denmark, if you didn't know, not in the UK. And sadly, because of Brexit, that does make things a little bit more complicated when ordering things from the UK sometimes. In other words, a little bit more expensive. So it will be in my benefit if I try to keep a few big orders from a few different places rather than lots of different little orders. So I want to try and gather as much of the parts as I can in one go. So for example, to go back to what I was talking about, if I can get all of the suspension stuff from Alive Tuning, for example, that would be great if I can do all of that in one go. Get the Fox Shock kit, comfort springs, bushes, all of the turrets and mounting bits for the springs and all of that, all of galvanized, of course. Throughout this, I'll be doing as much as I can to reduce rust. That's another part of my philosophy, is I want this Defender to be good for decades to come and not have to think about rust and water leaks. I know there's always going to be an element of that with Defenders, but we'll reduce it as much as we can. So all of that, hopefully, could come from Alive Tuning. There'll be a few other bits which might potentially be from places like YRM Metal Solutions, so little brackets and bolts and things like that here and there. Not exciting bits, but necessary things to hold it all together in between. So then we can move on to brakes. For me, this is one of those ones where I know exactly where I'm going for this, and that is LOF. We've been using LOF parts on several Defenders, or several Land Rovers actually, now for a while, namely their clutches. We've known and worked with Luke, who owns LOF, for a long time now, and we've been really happy with the clutches. My Defender is currently running a power spec LOF clutch. Nis's Discovery is running an extreme spec LOF clutch, and I think there's other Land Rovers potentially around here running LOF parts, and there's other LOF parts other than just the clutch on this as well. And yeah, like I said, they're very good quality, and I will quite happily put an LOF brake kit on this. And just like the clutches, there is a scale from sort of bog standard to power to extreme spec, depending on how much power your vehicle is running. I don't think I'll need to go up to extreme spec, because then we're talking like high-powered V8 Land Rovers. I think a power spec kit will be more than good enough for this Defender, so that is most likely what I will be going for. To go along with that, I will need brake lines, and for that I'll most likely be going with Pioneer 4x4. I know they do full brake line kits for that, which also I think LOF actually supply as well, so again, maybe could do all of that in a oneer. But that's an easy one right there. Actually, next on the list, which I should have spoken about previously, is the steering damper. So that I will just match up whatever I go for with suspension. So if I get an Old Man Emu kit for suspension, I'll get an Old Man Emu steering damper and a Fox one if I get Fox, probably. Just so it all matches up, basically. Why not? Then we've got dry flanges, half shafts. So that's something, again, LOF do like an uprated kit for that as well, which I will get. Fuel tank skid plate I've got on the list here. I actually don't know where to get one of those. But yeah, I'll need a fuel tank skid plate. Maybe that's something that YRM do. Fuel lines. So again, Pioneer 4x4, another thing I can get through them in very, very high quality so that it will last for a very, very long time. Then, there's some elements of this, what I'm going to talk about, where some of it is nice to have and some of it is need to have. Ultimately, the goal needs to be with this to get it back on the road as soon as possible, in my mind. And that means doing the necessary bits. And then if there's other modification things I want in the future, then we can do that. So, for example, if I decide that I want to put a winch bumper on this Defender, that's not essential for getting this Defender back on the road. So that is something I might want, but we could do it, later, further down the line. It also benefits us in terms of content, because then we have something to do in the future to keep working on this Defender. And as you know, Land Rovers are rarely just one and done, and I'm just going to drive it now forever and never touch it again. I'm sure there will be things that we change and tweak down the road. But on that point, I've got here, because it's under the chassis list, a rear step for the crossmember from ORE. So we are brand ambassadors for ORE 4x4. So I'll be fitting many of their parts to this Defender, I have no doubt, because we love their very high quality bits. And they do a rear step for the rear crossmember as well, which I would rather like, but it's not essential. So I've got that down on the list, but it might be something that we fit further down the line. Body. There'll be some body panels probably that need replacing. I don't know exactly which ones yet, but we figured that out further down the line. But yeah, body panels will need doing. I'm going to need to respray stuff. I'm not hugely bothered about having perfect paintwork. It's a Defender, and this is a workhorse at the end of the day. But I'm going to have a brand new bulkhead. I'm going to have brand new doors because they are hollowed out basically on the bottom from rust. So there's going to be bits that need painting anyway, so it's going to get a full respray. And we've got hinges. So let's take a look at hinges. These hinges, they're just bog standard Land Rover Defender hinges. As you can see, they're not any of the fancy ones that you can buy. But we did replace these not that long ago, a few years ago, with stainless steel fittings, because the ones I had before basically fell apart. Like one day I came to open the door and it basically fell off because the pin that goes through here had just wasn't attached to anything anymore, so the door kind of fell off. So we had to replace those. And I just went for the bog standard ones with stainless steel fixings, which have actually held up completely fine. They look new. I mean, I painted the hinges myself, but they actually look okay, apart from a few places, but they haven't corroded or anything, and the fixings all look good. However, if we're going to go to all the trouble of doing this rebuild, I'll go for the best that I can, in which case that will either be the offerings of Optimil, who are really best known for this, I think, who do really nice security hinges for Land Rovers, or Exmoor Trim also do really nice anodized aluminium hinges for all around as well now. So I'll be going for one of those options. Fortunately, here in Denmark, security isn't as much of a concern as it is, say, in the UK, where the theft of Land Rovers and Land Rover parts is quite a big issue. Not so much here. So, having security hinges, what I'm saying is having security hinges is not as much of a concern. So either Exmoor Trim, which are just regular non-security hinges, or the Optimil ones, I don't know. But that will be for all doors, clearly. The bonnet hinges as well, even though actually I could keep using these and just get them resprayed along with everything else. I've actually replaced these with stainless steel fittings as well at some point. They look fine. So I could carry on using the standard ones, but if I'm going to upgrade all of the hinges from either Optimil or Exmoor, I will probably just do the bonnet ones as well, so we have a full matching set of that. Windscreen blocks as well. So these are just some plastic covers I've put on these. You've got the standard ones underneath. Again, you can get some nicer looking ones from Optimil, which I will probably do. Then one of the mods that I really, really want, and this is me going back to what I was saying about having a sort of fairly like standard looking Defender with some creature comforts. One of the creature comforts I really, really, really want is a heated windscreen. In this country where it is wet most of the time, particularly at this time of year, or like this past winter, it's been very cold and very snowy. Having a heated windscreen would be a really, really nice luxury to have. And there are kits you can get from Paddocks, and I will definitely go for one of those. That is something that I really, really want, a nice little luxury, because we all know, even at the best of times, how bad Land Rovers are at steaming up and humidity and all of that. Heated rear window, that's a standard thing, but I need a new one, so that's on the list. Headlights, so again, as we're on body, we can talk about headlights. Currently in here, I've got some that I got from Tough Rock a few years ago, which I've been running, and they've been fine, but I'd like to upgrade them to what ORE offer. So that is the, I can never remember this acronym, but LTPRZ, LTPRTZ, something like that, the name of that company that ORE supplies. I believe they are a German company that do lights, and they are very high quality, very bright, and very durable. Last time I did this walk around video, I showed a video of Chris from ORE literally hitting one with a hammer and it not breaking. I guess that might be a benefit if you have an accident. I don't think you're ever going to specifically hit one with a hammer, but it's nice to know they're durable. But also very, very bright. So I'd like to get a set of those headlights on. And then, yeah, I think that's kind of it for body for now. I'm trying to think. Obviously, there's other bits around that will need doing. So, I mean, I'm not going to go through like every single nut and bolt, but, you know, the seals around the vents, the seals around the windscreen, the seals around the door, and yeah, all those little bits that are needed to put all of this back together. That kind of goes without saying. I'm not going to go through every single little item like that. Something else I'm really looking forward to fixing is this door, because now it is at a point where pretty much no matter how hard you slam this, it doesn't close. Let's give that a try. There we go. So you can see quite how hard I am slamming this, and it doesn't close. I imagine that's either the latch here or the striker here that needs replacing. Not exactly an expensive or difficult thing to do, but I'm looking forward to having a Defender with a door that closes properly and the likes of that. I washed this yesterday, and because I could not get this to close, quite a lot of water got onto the inside, but doesn't seem to have impacted anything, so that's fine. Let's go to the interior. Seats. Now, currently on my list, the seats are the second most expensive thing after the chassis. But I don't mind paying that, because I really, really want some good seats for this Defender. And this is another one of my, I know exactly where I'm going, things, and that is to Exmoor Trim, who I'm sure most of you are familiar with. In my mind, they are the place to go for Land Rover seats. So currently I've got these in, which came from, is it Powerful UK, I think they are called. And I've kind of grown to hate them, if I'm being completely honest, because they, unlike the standard Land Rover seats, the bases do not come out. So if you want to access the battery, which is down here, or the ECU down there, but particularly the battery, because that's something you need to get to more often, you need to take the entire seat out. And there's 4 screws, 1 on each corner, and they are kind of awkward to get to. I mean, it takes maybe 5 minutes, if that, to do, but still, you know, you want to get to the battery and not have it take 5 minutes. So it's just a pain to get to every time, and being completely honest, having not used this Defender that much over the last year because, well, it's been off the road and I was undecided what to do with it, means that the battery has died quite a lot because it's just kind of been unloved. So I've had to take the seat in and out a lot of times and I've gotten fed up of it. But also, I mean, they're not the best quality. This fabric is starting to rip. These are supposed to be like jet black, and they're basically going white in the middle. They're faded. The fabric is all coming off. They have heating in them as well. The heating element in this one in the driver's seat has stopped working. So yeah, not the best. They were cheap though, I'll give them that, but I guess you get what you pay for. But it's one thing that I cannot wait to replace are these seats. The one thing I will say about them, I find them really comfortable. It is nice having these bolsters. They are genuinely comfortable, so I will give them that. But quality, not so good, and practicality, not so good with not being able to take the bases out. So really looking forward to changing these. And I will be changing them with, like I said, something from Exmoor trim, and I will be going for what they call their modular seat, which is just looks like a really cushy, comfy seat. I think they describe it as an armchair ride, which is exactly what I want, just something very comfortable. The bases on the Exmoor trim seats come out like the standard Defender seat, so you can get to the battery or ECU easily. Not that it's an essential for me necessarily, but they also come with heating built into them, so you can wire that in if you want to. So I guess we'll be doing that, though, like I said, it wasn't an absolute requirement for my sake. But yeah, nice to have. The middle seat, this is the complete standard factory center seat here. I just put an Exmoor trim waterproof cover on it a long time ago in black to match these, and it still looks good. And I have no reason to change that. I don't want to put a cubby box in, or I would like to put a cubby box in the center, but I get far too much use out of the middle seat, really, for me to justify changing it. So I'll be leaving the center seat in because it is very handy, and just leaving it like this, frankly. I'm quite happy with the way it is. So then the next thing are the doors. So doors, as I said to Nissa when we were going through this list before filming this video, I want to make these doors so that once we put this card on, not this card, I need a new one, but once we put the card that I will have on, when we do the rebuild, I want to make it so I never have to take them off again. If you've ever taken a Defender door card off, they are a pain. It's one of those things where you kind of pop it on one side and it comes off on the other side, and like you can never like all get it on at once, and things, it just never quite works. At least in my experience, they're just very fiddly and not very well designed and not very good quality. So yeah, I want to do these like properly and never have to touch them again. So that leads me on to the bits that I'm going to talk about now, which is again from Optimil. So Optimil do like all of these interior bits, like the latch here, the handle, etc., in aluminium, like I guess anodized aluminium, which looks really nice. And I'm sure there's some of you that would be like, oh, that's expensive, flashy stuff, and they are really expensive, I'll give you that. But this plastic stuff is so flimsy, I am so done with it, trying to get this all to line up and fit and whatever, that I honestly will quite happily pay for some nice quality aluminium bits to replace all this cheap brittle plastic with. As you can see, this part has just torn off completely from the times that I've had to try and fix this. So this latch and this surround and lever, at least, I'll probably replace with the Optimil aluminium bits that they do, which are very nice. Handle, maybe I'll replace that again with something fancy, and the window winder, probably just leave it as it is. Door cards, I just get some bog standard door cards. You can get some replacements from Mud Stuff. Mud Stuff is probably where I'll be going for a lot of interior parts. They are good at that. So yes, Optimil and Mud Stuff will be a bit of a theme for the interior. These tread plate things, actually quite good. I just got these off eBay years ago, so I might keep those or something like it to have on the door cards. Yeah, because they are quite nice. You can see how mucky it gets down there. But as I was saying, this is completely rusted out at the bottom, so I definitely need some new doors here that hopefully I never have to take apart again. And the door handles on the outside, again, I could get some nice aluminium bits for that potentially. The next thing I got up is the center console. So I've got the Mud Stuff center console right here. I will replace that with another Mud Stuff center console and just change the configuration. I'm kind of like locked, I think, having a Mud Stuff center console, because if you don't know, you have to cut out bits of the dash behind to make this fit. So I can't like just take this off and have like a regular Defender dash or something in there now. I sort of need to have this or something that covers it up, I guess. So yeah, I'll keep a Mud center console, and I was originally thinking of going with a double DIN, like Apple CarPlay type radio in there. However, I've had the thought that when you sit in a Defender, the center console is like quite low, so I think when you're driving, you don't. It's kind of awkward, I think, to look down there at the screen. You know, you think in a modern car, it's sort of high up and almost at your eye level. Also, I don't really need it. I actually have a magnetic mount up here for my phone, which was given to me by a TearSpec TV fan. Thank you very much, Simon. And I still use it. And it's actually just really nice having your phone there, like at your eye level. And I'm perfectly fine with having that rather than buying a really expensive double DIN unit and having it down there, which is kind of out of eyesight. Plus, another thing that's bothered me about having this here in this position is that I have many times while shifting into third, probably slightly too vigorously, or yeah, I guess first or third, I've hit buttons on here, so like hit the next track button, which is right here above third. So sometimes you'll be driving, change gear, and then like you change to the next track or something. So that definitely needs to be up here, or what I think I would like to do is have it up here, so it is a bit higher up, a bit more practical. And then on this panel, probably have some of Mud Stuff's Carling switches, which are some nice rocker switches, which I can use for the heated windscreen, and a couple other bits as well that I want. But overall, I want to keep it simple, and then I'll have the windscreen, rear windscreen wiper button that should be over here, actually close to the driver, and over here probably just a USB socket for charging stuff. LED interior lamp, Mud Stuff. Oh, there's water in this. How did that? Okay. Oh, we can take it off. Okay. That's got water in it somehow, so there's water coming through there. That's cool. Replace this with an LED interior lamp. This is like beyond useless. Not just useless, beyond useless. It's so crap. That light, I guess I could change the bulb, couldn't I? But yeah, it's crap. Get an LED one from Mud Stuff. They do a nice thingy for that. And replace that. Headlining, while we're up here, let's talk about that. This needs to go. It's moldy and manky and disgusting, and definitely needs to be replaced at this point. And it only covers the front part of the cabin. The rear is not covered. We'll get into that in a second. But I need new headlining, and I want it to go all the way back this time, not just the front of the Defender. Probably in black. I think that'd look a little bit smarter, a little bit more resistant to all of these stains and mud and things. It's quite funny that I've actually got mud marks up here along the edge of the window from the off-roading we've done when I've had the window open and actually had mud flung into the interior up here. But yes, headlining, and then there needs to be some kind of insulation above this. So yeah, we need insulation for sure, because condensation is a big issue in the interior of this Defender. So we need that for sure. Steering wheel. This is just the bog standard factory Defender steering wheel, but I would like to replace this with the Motor Lighter. I don't quite know how you pronounce that. Steering wheel. It's the same one that Nissa has in his V890. It looks very nice. And it's, I mean, you can get it from Optimil, you can get it from Mud Stuff. So that's a steering wheel that I would like to have in this one. But yeah, this one is kind of getting worn. But I thought it'd be quite fun to keep this and like put it on a wall somewhere, hang it up, with all the memories that I've had with this steering wheel. I'll keep it as like a little piece of memorabilia. I think that would be cool. But yeah, it would be nice to smarten up with something a bit newer. Wiper motor, something very boring. But the windscreen wiper motor for the front windscreen wipers is behind the dash somewhere, and I think it's an absolute pain to replace. So I'll obviously replace that once we start this and all of this is exposed, because it's one of those things that it could die any day now, and I think frankly it is maybe on its last legs. Not an expensive thing either, so we'll just change that. Same for the rear, change the wiper motor on the rear door. Matting. So there's nothing particularly wrong with the matting, I guess, that's in this Defender right now. It's just very dirty, but it's not actually ripped or anything. But I've just got the standard matting in here at the moment. However, I've just seen Boris, the Defender, has just fitted the Exmoor trim matting system, which covers, it's not just this, like the floor mats, but also all of this matting that covers the seat boxes as well. And it's a little bit more better designed, I think, just a little bit more modernized and thought out than the standard Land Rover one. So replace this with a full nice new shiny black Exmoor trim matting kit to cover all of the interior. That would be very, very nice. That is it. We can go have a look at the back quickly. So, as I said, there's no roof lining up in the rear at the moment. We've just got these weird mats. I think this is meant to be some kind of sound deadening. They've always been there. I think actually that's something I've had some comments about in the past, and I always tell people I don't know because where I got them, I mean, because they've always been here. But this is all soaking wet. So this is something I really want to fix in this rebuild, is putting some insulation in here, covering this up, because it is pretty manky in and around all of this. So that will be covered with the roof lining, as I said. The rear interior trim, so all of this around the windows is all exposed bodywork right now, which I'm not that bothered by in terms of appearance. However, Mud Stuff do a kit now which, like the plastic trim that covers up all of that, goes around the windows. And as I said, I'm not bothered about the aesthetic so much, but it's more, if I get that, I can put insulation, wiring, stuff like that behind all of the trim, which would be rather nice, and integrate like grab handles and whatever in the back as well, and make it look a little bit smarter and more practical. So we'll probably end up doing that. In terms of matting, this is an Exmoor trim kit that I got, acoustic kit, so it's supposed to be sound deadening. And this floor mat, it's 3 pieces, so the sides and the bottom. The piece here on the bottom is not held in by anything other than this thing right here, and the sides, they are not held in by anything. There are actually Velcro. Just move that. There's supposed to be Velcro here, which doesn't work out so well. That's supposed to be the bit stuck to that bit. But it's not sticky anymore, so that doesn't work. I think if you want to have this stuck to the sides, you need to properly glue it down. So maybe I'll just keep reusing this, or just have some like bog standard rubber. But I'm not that fussed about this space looking neat and tidy. You can see it's a workhorse, that stuff gets chucked in here. Just having some rubber flooring is fine. I'm never going to have rear seats in the back of this Defender because of the way Danish registration laws work. If I wanted to have back seats in this Defender, I have to pay a lot more tax. So it's registered as like a utility vehicle where I can only have seats in the front. So this is always just going to be a load space for chucking stuff, dogs, whatever in. It doesn't need to be neat and tidy, frankly. And then there's also, I haven't seen it, but Nissa says there's some kind of lighting system I can get, interior light, which would actually run from the front all the way down to the back along this spine, I guess, which would be nice to have some lighting in the back of this Defender as well. And again, roof lining and panels and stuff can cover up wiring for all of that. Speaking of which, something I want to have on the back are some work lights. That's something that would definitely come in handy. And I do actually have some from given to me by ORE from the LTRPT ZR, whatever they're called, brand, which we've just never fitted. So I have some at home, which would be perfect, one on each side to go up here. And again, we can run the wiring, I guess, through the roof lining. So we'll be putting those on with the rebuild as well. And rear door card. I haven't got that on the list, actually, I think. But that's something, this one's actually not so bad. I think I've only ever taken it off once, but probably just replace this with something a bit smarter and newer. Again, Mud Stuff. I think you can get some with like pockets on the back and things like that, which would be a nice touch to have to chuck stuff into. So we'd probably do that. Rear door needs replacing as well. It's not as bad as the front door, nowhere near. Actually, the bottom is relatively okay. It's quite solid. I can see we've painted it at some point with some like rust protection. Why is that sticking up? So it's actually not hollow on the bottom, which is good. There is some rust, but it's actually solid, which is nice. But the exterior is actually the worst part with all of this, and in here as well is not good. So we'll be replacing that. This seal has also gone. Need a new heated rear windscreen. Windscreen. ORE spare wheel carrier. So I've got half of it on, and I've got the ORE spare wheel carrier at home, and we'll definitely be reusing that and having a spare wheel on the door again once this Defender is back on the road. I've just not bothered to put it back on because there's no point in me having a spare wheel while I'm driving around here. It's not worth the effort of putting it back on, but we'll definitely be doing that, having that back on once it is time. The lights, these are already LEDs all round. We changed those a long time ago, so these can all be reused. Same with this one. Yeah, as I said, body panels, all of this needs to be either replaced or just taken off and galvanizing the originals, all of these tub capping bits, and resprayed. So yeah, that all needs to be done. Mud shield kit I've just spotted. So underneath I have this, where's that torch? Underneath we fitted the Gwyn Lewis mud shield kit. So you can see that's this arch lining right here, which is on this side, on the back side of the wheel arch, and also in the front wheel arch as well. This is a really, really cool kit, which basically just fills up the gaps in your wheel arch here, front and rear, to stop mud and salt and stuff being sprayed into the crossmember, into the outriggers, and all those places that you don't want that stuff. And I will certainly be reusing all of that. It's just some rubber, plasticky panels with stainless steel fixings all around, so I can just reuse all of that. It's a really nice kit to have. Some of you did actually recommend getting that, but yes, already got it on this Defender, but probably too little, too late. So yes, we'll certainly be reusing all of that. Down the road, I might decide to do other things, but they're things that aren't essential. So for example, I might put a winch bumper on. This is the ORE heavy duty standard bumper, just a bog standard Defender bumper, and it still looks as good as new when it's clean at least. It's just dirty at the moment. But maybe I put an ORE winch bumper on. I also have somewhere, I have a the mud stuff. No, it's not mud stuff. It's supplied by Mud Stuff, but it's I can't remember the brand name. But basically a cubby box that fills this space. Nissa has one on his V890, which you can use to put in like a kill switch for the winch. You can put like a shortcut to the battery for jump starting and stuff like that, which is a really nice little handy thing to have. I don't think I would go for like LED light bars, stuff like that. It doesn't quite fit my philosophy. Even though I'm a little bit tempted by the super slim offerings of ORE. They do a really nice, very slim light bar that goes along the roof. But from what I've heard, it's not even needed with the LRPTZYX headlights that they offer. They're super bright and borderline, like you don't need any extra lights beyond that. Then wheels. I'm currently running the Davanti Terratura tires, which I had fitted in 2020, I think, 2020 or maybe 2021. So these have not done much mileage at all. Probably, I'm going to say max 5,000 kilometers on these tires. But they're very good. All-terrain tires, which I've been happy with. And I'm going to continue with like a standard ride height, standard tire size Defender. I don't want to go with a lift kit and big tires and stuff like that. Like I said, if money were no object, I probably have another Defender that was, but with this one, I just want it to be fairly standard. So I'm going to continue with this tire setup. They've got plenty of tread left on them, and they are way short of their expiration date, so I can keep using those for now. The rims, I've got the sawtooth alloy wheels, which again, I think I'll continue using for now. I'm slightly tempted, have slightly fallen for the twisted alloy wheels. I rather like those now that I've been looking at twisted Defenders. But a full set of those is expensive, and it's absolutely not essential. And I've got other things to spend money on for now. So maybe, in a year I might decide that I want some new wheels or something. Who knows? But for now, I'm going to continue running the sawtooth alloys. They're also quite sort of battle scarred. But I mean that in a good way, because it means I can continue to battle scar them and it doesn't really matter. So the last thing on the list, which I just remembered, is all of the engine, gearbox, mechanical bits. Nothing particularly exciting in that area. I think it's mostly just going to be servicing it. So that's what we've just done to Nissa's Disco 2 engine that we've just swapped in. Basically a major service and cleanup of that engine. And I think that's what we'll do here as well. I think, touch wood or Defender, that mechanically it's in pretty good shape in terms of engine and gearbox and all of that. So just good major service of all of those bits, and that's basically my list here, is just servicing parts mostly. Maybe 1 or 2 upgrades here and there, but we'll get to that when we get there. But I think that's mostly going to be quite vanilla. Otherwise, so a couple things on my list. The upgraded Defender heater matrix from AliSport. I didn't know that was a thing until Nissa told me about it when we were going through the list. That excites me a lot, to have an uprated Defender heater. That sounds quite sad, but yes, having a really high quality Defender heater sounds quite exciting to me. And then the other upgrade Nissa mentioned was what was it called? Upgrading the 5th gear ratio. So that's something you can get through Ashcroft gearboxes, is basically changing out the 5th gear ratio so that when you're driving in 5th gear, you're driving at lower revs, higher speed. So basically make it a bit better at cruising, which would be a cool thing to try out. I think that's everything that I can think of for now. I'm sure I've spoken for long enough. And if you can think of things that I've forgotten, you think you have better ideas than the things that I have mentioned that I should go for, please do let me know in the comment section down below, because this is now the point where I want to get on with ordering all of these bits so that we can really crack on with this once the warmer, drier weather arrives. I wanted to do this outside in daylight, but yeah, the weather is not so good. It's very, very wet and has been for a long time. But we're back in this barn where we were last time in some rather good company with a Range Rover, a Series 1, and a Defender. Nice representation of Land Rover heritage right there. Thank you very much for watching. I'm really excited about this project now, especially after all the support in the previous Defender video. I was really blown away by the number of people that were borderline cheering for me that this is finally happening. That was just so cool to see. It's been scary to commit to this, both financially, obviously, it's a lot of money, but also in terms of the work that's going to be involved to actually make this happen. It's kind of hard to believe that this is really happening, that I can really now build my dream Defender after all these years. That's a crazy thing for me to be able to say. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.